Hey guys, it's me, Natalie. Today is Good Friday, and honestly, it's a day that I find to be about zero fun. Today is the day when we remember that we took Jesus and we beat him and we hurt him and we scourged him until he was unrecognizable. We crucified him. It was our choices. It was the things that we've done that hung him up on that cross, and that he chose to do so for us. Now, what I want to talk about is a bit scandalous.
Oh dear.
And I have been praying for months that God would give me the words right now to be able to speak about this subject, because it is silent, and because it is real, and because it is so pervasive, and because it is hurting people, and it needs to be talked about. Let me describe a little phenomena that we have going on in the church today. One that I personally experienced growing up as a little girl. We had missionaries. They came to our house 2-3 times. I just thought they were the brightest, so beautiful, and so holy. I just wanted to be exactly like them when I grew up. I thought they were the coolest people in the world. Fast forward about 10 years, and woo! I'm a missionary. I made it. And I remember becoming a missionary and being just so excited. Again, I had this image. I put these awesome missionaries who made such an impact in my early life on this pedestal, and now I was one. And I remember a couple weeks into this missionary experience beginning to look around at my missionary team and realizing that, oh, we're a mess. Oh, we're a big mess. It has honestly been mind-boggling, confusing, and distressing to be in a ministry position where God has entrusted you with such a beautiful work. And yet I continue to sin, even though I am in a ministry position where I speak to people about forgiveness and mercy and God's healing and hope. It has been hard. When through your priest or through your bishop, you've been invited into a public ministry role, you step into a fishbowl. Your life becomes more public. People put their trust in you, and it matters how you live your life. The choices that you make matter. People watch what you do. And even the silent, secret things that maybe you're struggling with, those do impact not just your life, but in a very great way, the people who are trusting you. You've willingly stepped into this role. And for a cheesy, but I think very accurate quote, with great power comes great responsibility. Thanks, Spider-Man. Now, I don't know if any of you have ever Googled what exactly happens when a leader betrays the trust of their people. I have. And it's vicious. It's vicious. I was Googling it because I was in the middle of really struggling with some very serious things, and I was looking for help. And I remember going through all these articles and not finding a single merciful voice. Just a lot of anger, and I get it. I totally get it. I have good friends who have been very betrayed by people in ministry, and it goes very deep. It like in many ways it can shatter trust. It shatters hope. People even begin questioning whether the faith that they were taught by these people is real. This is real stuff. But I do want to tell you about what this did to my heart. I lived with shame and guilt and fear. Fear that people would find out, that they would be hurt because of my struggles. And over the course of several months, I began to open up to some of my lay ministry friends that I was struggling. And I began to hear over and over and over and over again that I was not the only one who was struggling. Everybody was. Everybody was. I was not alone. There are 3 modes of behavior when you are struggling with some sort of serious sin. You rationalize it. This actually, I've observed this. For instance, my home parish, we had a secretary who ended up embezzling upwards of $40,000. When she was caught and confronted, her reasoning was that she hadn't been paid enough and that she was just supplementing her income. And it's so easy to rationalize, because who really needs to know about your alcohol problem? Who really needs to know that you look at pornography on the side? Or have anger issues at home? This is private. This is your private business. It makes a difference. Yes, it makes an impact. You cannot rationalize away immoral behavior. I know it's painful to look at. I know it's hard to confront, but those things are making a difference, not just to the people that you're ministering, but to your own soul. If you're rationalizing immoral behavior, you are in a dangerous place. And in the famous words of every street corner preacher, you need to repent. You live in shame and guilt and fear. And that a lot of people feel trapped by these cycles or these struggles that they're in. They know the responsibility that they have to the community. And let's use, if you struggle with alcoholism, for instance, you know that sometimes when you're inebriated, that you're driving around and you have this fear that maybe you could actually hurt somebody. And what would happen to the community if they knew that you had this struggle? But if you go into rehab, then everybody's going to know. It is such an effective tool from Satan. Satan whispers to your heart that you are unworthy, that you are despicable, that you do not have honor. Like the list goes on and on and on and on. And people who I meet who are stuck in this, it's a soul killer. They just feel crushed by the shame and guilt, but they don't see a way out. But there's also a third way. Accountability. And this is from my own experience, because I learned that surrounding myself with a loving community, which thank goodness the community I was in was so loving and so supportive, and I went to my spiritual director. I got a regular confessor. I shared with 1 or 2 good friends who I knew could really build up and encourage me, and shared very openly the ugliest and darkest things that I was struggling with. And as an extra step, my spiritual director and I decided that we would go to my pastor and that we would sit down and we would tell him everything outside of the seal of the confessional. And that was terrifying. I was like, oh my word, what if he fires me? Because he could have. But, and this again was a decision between me and my spiritual director, that we decided that he had a need and a right to know that I was struggling, and that if people knew that I was struggling, he had to be prepared to help address the community. That might not be the solution for everybody, but that was the solution that me and my spiritual director came up with. But accountability works. I can speak to you from my own life, because I still have so much fear that I will fall, that I will continue to struggle. And I'll be honest, there have been times that I have, and it has been horrific. It has been terrible, but it gets less and less and less and less and less. And when I do fall, I run to these people, and they are able to encourage me. They're able to hold me accountable, to lift me back up, and set me back on track. So once again, I'm walking right with God. Of the three choices that you have, this one is the most painful. It's also the one that sets you free. And there is one more thing. Satan is a jerk. And if he's whispering to you about your unworthiness, that you're despicable, all these different things that he's going to throw at you, just want to remind you that Jesus died for you today. God's mercy and God's love on his open arms on the cross, that is for you. He was looking at you. He was looking at this struggle that you're having right now. Even if you are a leader, even if you are a minister in the church, and no matter how big the sin is or the impact that it could make, he took it on himself. That mercy that he is offering is not just for the people that you're ministering to, it's for you too. I want to extend a couple of practical tips on how to move forward if you're struggling with serious sin in ministry. And number one is get a spiritual director, possibly also a counselor, because sometimes the things that we struggle with, you need very practical programs and tools to move forward. Now, a spiritual director is somebody who's going to be able to help you balance between whether you're just being super scrupulous or if you have something that really needs to be addressed. I want to use pornography as an illustration. If this is something that you're struggling with, one, it's an addiction. You're going to need accountability, you're going to need help. And also two, is that when you're talking or working through with your spiritual director, you can work with that person to decide, do I need to remove myself from ministry while I'm struggling with this serious issue? The answer might be yes. The answer might be no. You might be able to continue in ministry while you're working through this. But, and this is a big disclaimer, even among serious types of sin, sometimes there's just an extra level. For instance, with child pornography. That is something that you and your spiritual director certainly say, yes, I need to remove myself from ministry because what I am struggling with causes an extra degree of harm to the community and to the people. And that is why you need someone who can really work with you on those difficult issues. They're intimate questions, and the answers will sometimes be different for every single person, but getting that partner, a spiritual director, regular confessor, and possibly a secular counselor is a good team of people to help you get started in moving forward and healing. God does not call perfect people into ministry. We all have struggles, and I just want to remind you that there is so much hope, that there is hope for healing through prayer, through accountability, and knowing that God does work miracles inside of our hearts, and that those miracles are also available to you. That's it. I would love to hear your comments and your thoughts. I know that this was a difficult subject, which again is why I wanted to talk about it on Good Friday. Comment below, subscribe, like us on Facebook. Know that I'm praying for you. Please pray for me. I need it. See you next week.